And we'll be having with us Lauren. She wasn't around on Saturday, but she'll be here with us. And just before she comes on, I would just like to do a recap of some of the things I said on Saturday for those who were not around. So for those of you who were not around on Saturday, we'll share the replay once again on the groups for the Saturday session so that you can watch and be informed, right? So what we said on Saturday is that this is TechLearn. Most of the introduction is in the other video, but just to do a brief recap here, and we have a 10-month coaching program for the 11 plus exam, for the 11 plus exam, for the KS2 SAT exam, for the GCSE exam. So it's a 10-month coaching program. And if your child is writing the 11 plus exam, it is £325 for the 10 months, which is from March, from next week Monday to the end of December. If your child is writing the KS2 exam, that is for year 6, it is 285 British pounds. And if your child is writing the GCSE exams, it is 285 British pounds. We also said that classes start upper Monday, which is March 17. Registration closes, this time it's now this week Saturday, right? It's this week Saturday, which is March 15 for the registration. That is very important. And we also said that 10 months of tutoring for if your child is in year 4, it is 10 months of tutoring. If your child is in year 5, so we always advise that parents ensure that their children join from year 4. It's not too early for them to join, right? So if they're in year 4, that means they're writing the exam next year, which is their year as they're going to year 6 from year 5. So what we do in TechLearn is we group year 4 students in year 4 and year 5 students in year 5. So that is what we do. So it's 10 months of tutoring. And so that means they can start preparation early. Like I said on the group, the national success rate, pass rate for the 11 plus is less than 50%. You oscillate between 30% to 45% nationally. So a child needs the best of preparation to excel. So classes hold 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. UK time, and I'm still on the 11 plus, and it's from March to September 25. So the exam is in September, but after that, the child continues with tutoring for their year 6. So even though the exam is written in September, from October to December, classes continues because we now need to prep them for the year 6. So they are moving from year 6 to year, from year 5 to year 6. But if your child is in year 4, the tutoring goes on from March to December because that child is writing the exam next year. So that is how it works for us. So there's no gap, there's no learning gap. You know, classes are just continuous, right? Another thing about our program is that we have monthly mock tests. So for those of you who might be joining this session for the first time, I will share the replay of the Saturday program with you because a lot of things were said there that I won't just be repeating things, right? So the monthly mock test, which is periodically, once in a month, once in 2 months. No, the monthly, it's monthly. It is the career coaching or the career advisory that is, at times it could be once in a month, at times it could be once in 2 months, right? So these are career advisory sessions. And at these sessions, the career advisors, that's Lauren, Afua, and other career advisors come on board, and they prepare the parents as we prepare the students, right? So because, like I said on Saturday, there are students who do well on the exams but still struggle with admissions. So they do well on the exams, but when it comes to the admissions, they still struggle. So getting good scores is a part of the process. It's not the only thing, and that is very important. So we'll look at the KS2. So the KS2 SAT is taken by year 6 students, and when they are done with the exams in May, we start to prep them for year 7. So the exam is in May. So from June to December, they start classes for year 7. So that is how it works with us. So classes are Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. For those who are on the accelerated plan, what does the accelerated plan mean? It means your child is in year 5 and the child is writing 11 plus in September. We always have extra classes at no cost to you, extra classes at no cost, right? Because they are on the accelerated plan, meaning they are writing the exam this year. But for those who are in year 4 who will be writing the exam next year, they have their normal 4 days of classes. But for those in year 5, aside from Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, we at times have extra classes for them that we don't charge you that are in addition, because we just want these children to do well in these exams, right? So we have year 4, we have year 5. Right now, for the GCSE exam, just what we do for 11 plus, if they're in year 9, they're in the same class. If they're year 10, they're in the same class. So that is how it works. And if they are in year 11 too, they're in a separate class. So that's how it works, because those who are in year 9, they'll be writing the exams 2 years time, but the best time to start is now. Just like Alpha said on Saturday, that these scores, these GCSE scores, it doesn't just end with university admission. At times, getting a job, the GCSE scores are still required in getting a job. I mean, imagine a GCSE score, still being required for a job. So the GCSE is very important. So if the child is in year 9, they have 10 months of coaching this year. If they're in year 10, they have 10 months of coaching, so that we start to prepare them right ahead. Right. So that is how it works for us. Progress report is sent from time to time to parents, so they understand the strengths of their child, the weaknesses of their child, the improvement the child has had month on month, because every month we do mock tests to assess their progress and their strength. Right. So, and on Saturday, we spoke about the 11 plus exam is required to gain admission to a grammar school, an high quality education, highest quality of education obtainable in the United Kingdom, improved university and career prospects, smaller class sizes, more resources, a lot of extracurricular activities, free but high quality. So, and I said that there are independent schools that charge as little as £12,000. Some charge as high as £20,000 per annum, right? So, and this is very important. Some charge as high as £20,000 per annum. So these things, but when your child gains admission to a grammar school, they don't have to pay those bogus fees, because the grammar school is high quality, and at the same time, it is free. So for this friend of mine whose child is in an independent school, which a private, and they call them independent schools, he is paying £12,000 per annum. So in 6 years, he would have paid, in 6 years, he would have paid £72,000 in 6 years. In 5 years, £60, but in 6 years, he would have done £72,000. So, so I've explained all these things to us, and the fact that 11 plus covers maths, English, verbal reasoning, and non-verbal reasoning. So that being said, we have with us tonight Lauren. You already know I've introduced to us, and I will be bringing her tonight to talk to us a lot about the 11 plus and what TechLearn has to offer your kids who are registering for the 11 plus. And after that, we take your questions and, we'll move on from there. So as you all know, the group is open. So if you have questions, you can always reach out. You can always send messages on the lines here and we'll take your questions. So Lauren, you are welcome. I think I need to make you the host so that you can share your screen with us. Host. So over to you, Lauren. How are you doing today?
Oh, getting there.
Hello.
As best as you can be. Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Yeah. How are you doing today?
As best as I can be after the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So sorry about that. Yeah.
Part of life is
Mm.
living and
Mm.
not. So, yeah, I guess the great circle of life, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah. So,
At least he got to see his grandchildren.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the sister-in-law's pregnant with number three, so yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's good to know. God will comfort the family at such a period like this.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So,
So,
mm.
so over to you, Lauren. Let's hear from you tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Onto this one. Yeah. So I've sort of combined my two PowerPoints into one big one.
Yeah,
Um,
interesting.
So I think just because my other one had a lot more in depth about the process of the 11 plus and the admissions, the cycle. So I figured kind of add it all together so everyone understands what they're doing. So hello everyone. My name is Lauren. I'm an international education consultant and tutor. I specialise in the entrance exams for grammar schools and independent schools, not only here in the UK, but worldwide. I've done pretty well. But I think I've been quite lucky. I've had, excellent students along the way who are just fantastic. So absolutely. So that's me. Next one. So your secondary school options, it's something that's always in the back of your mind. I have a 4-year-old, he's halfway through reception or kindergarten here in the UK, and already I'm thinking of in 6 years' time, what secondary school option am I going to choose? Last week was secondary school offer day on last Monday. So everybody in the country would have received their offer for what secondary school their child will be attending. Obviously, it's a nerve-wracking time for, I think, parents more than the kids. But yeah, so these are your options here in the UK. So obviously, you've got your state schools, which are for everyone. Everyone is entitled to an education here. There are good ones, and obviously there are not so good ones. It is very much a postcode lottery of where you live will depend on which state schools you can basically apply for. So even where I am, I'm in York, up in York. My local state school is not great, but the one we are just in the postcode for an outstanding secondary school. So a lot of the kids here in the village do actually go there, up to Archbishop. So you know, state schools, there is a mix. There are good ones and not so great ones. So yeah, but grammar schools, so obviously these are selective, which means you have to sit a test. There are day schools and there are boarding schools. So I will come back to this in a minute. A lot of people do not know that there are 30, 32, I think, boarding grammar schools, which is now an option. It's something not really spoken about out there, but it could possibly be an option for yourselves. Again, postcode lottery, grammar schools, you've got to live within postcodes to be able to apply for them. So it is not just about sitting the test, you actually have to like live there. And then obviously you've got your independent schools, which are your private educating schools, which again, day schools and boarding schools here in the UK. They are selective. Some of them, especially the London ones, they're very, very selective, like your Eton and your Harrow, and Westminster, and obviously, as explained, costly. The most expensive school, which is Brighton College down in Brighton. It is about £38,000 per year to send your children to Brighton College. So yeah, it is absolutely insane. And that's just a day. That's not including boarding fees. So if you were going to board and attend Brighton College Prep, you're probably looking at around the £60,000 per year. So yeah, how anyone can afford that, I don't know, but like, so grammar schools for most of us is probably the more realistic option. So we're going to go quick overview of the schools again. So here we got Archbishop, which is the outstanding school in York near me, and Walgate, which is the local comprehensive school, which is the not so good one near me. So obviously everyone is entitled to an education, and you are all offered a place to as close as you can to your local school. As we know, there's a lot of schools, they are oversubscribed. Even getting into your local school is it can be a bit of it can be quite tricky. So yeah, it's quite a complicated process in doing this. It is a postcode lottery, so obviously there are better ones than others. I'm in the middle of two, a really not so great one and an outstanding school. Obviously, living in the catchment area of an outstanding school, it does mean they get more funding from the government. So it is always another option, is looking into, where you live and the Ofsted reports and things like that of your local state schools. Obviously, they do follow the curriculum set by the government, and the staff, unfortunately, they're put under a lot of pressure. They have, the classrooms are overrun. It's a lot for everybody. And obviously, with traditional state schools, if you have a SEN child or a child that particularly struggles in their learning, traditional schools unfortunately don't necessarily have the resources to be able to accommodate your child. And obviously with the 20% VAT now on independent schools, this is becoming more and more of an issue. Independent schools, so again, this is my local one, which is next to the not so great state schools. You've got this beautiful house and then like the not so great one. They are highly competitive. So you've got the 11 plus intake, you've got the 13 plus, which is for the year 9. They often have spaces throughout. So I've got a student attending Pocklington School for year 10. So she'll be coming across from China soon. There's also other versions of the 11 plus, 13 plus, so they're called the ISEB. You've got the Cat 4, Yuki set. So for independent schools, there are multiple different types of tests, but they all sort of do the same thing. They are highly competitive as well, particularly the ones in the south. Fee starts at £20,000 per year. That's like the most sort of liberal one. But then obviously you have expenses. So the rule of thumb is whatever the annual cost, add 25%. So that 25% extra is obviously going to be things like music lessons, or if you go to a school where they do horse riding, your school uniforms, sports, etc. So even, it doesn't just stop at fees. They also do lots of fancy trips, etc. So adding 25% onto that fee is probably a more realistic approach to how much you're going to spend per year. But obviously, because it's paid, the facilities are top notch. It's fantastic. You have SEN kids, they are absolutely accommodated at these schools. But obviously, for most of us, it's just not an option. Grammar schools. So grammar schools, you get the private education, but without the cost. And because of that, they're even more selective. So they literally cherry pick the top. So after you have sat the exam and all the results come in, you are ranked in grade order. So the kids with the top scores basically get chosen. Remember, for a lot of these grammar schools, they only have about 60 places per year. So you have to be in the top 60 to be offered a place. You might have to wait until, like I said, we had offer days. Some people like move around. They choose other schools. So you might be put on the waiting list and pray that you get on it for the September. Grammar schools are now, they've already said with this year, more students sat the grammar school test for 2025 start because of the VAT that started in January. So there's even more pressure on of getting your kids into these schools. The downside of them is that you have to live in the catchment area. This is an absolute must. Always check what we say, the T's and C's. Each school is ever so slightly different. So some of them require you to have lived there for a couple of years. Some of them require you to move there after you've been offered a place, and they will check. They've now started doing checks where people used to sort of rent houses to get into grammar schools. So they had the postcode and then go back to the family home and just sort of do the traveling. But they now do checks apparently, and they have started kicking students out of the school because they don't meet the requirements. So always make sure you check the T's and C's and the requirements to make sure that you do meet the criteria of applying for a grammar school. So it is not just about sitting the test. There is a whole other load of stuff that you as a parent need to make sure you fully understand. Knowledge is power, and that is what's going to help you in this journey. We will go through this more in a second, but it literally starts from year 5, May to July is when registration opens. If you miss registration, you will not sit the exam. You will not go to grammar schools. They are so overrun and the waiting list is so long that you literally have one chance to sit these, and if you miss it, you will miss it. They don't need you anymore because of, again, a lot of kids in independent schools, it's not an option anymore. So grammar schools is becoming more and more pressured. But yeah, so the process of this is 12 to 36 months, as we have said. From year 4, the earliest you can start getting kids prepared, obviously, the better. It gives them as much preparation, but also confidence to sit these exams. For students, this is the first test they will have ever sat. Ever. We don't test kids in the UK. We're not like Asia and other parts of the world where they get tested rigorously 3 or 4 times a year. We literally get tested at the end of primary school, at the end of secondary school, and then obviously your A levels once a year and your university. But that's it. I don't know why we complain about the testing system here in the UK. I actually think it's not a lot compared to everybody else. So testing, so this is going to be their first ever test. So we are 12 to 36 months before the exam. So so we're now sort of looking at the kids that are currently in year 4. This would probably apply more to you because you're going to be sitting the exam in 2026. So explore your options, making sure that you are looking at the school. Is it right for your child? Because don't forget the pressure of getting into these schools. Once they're there, the pressure doesn't stop. They have to hit these grades, and it's an intense and rigorous education system, which is not for every child, and that's okay. We're not all the same, and we're not all made that way. So you know your child the best. We all want our kids to succeed and have the best education that we can possibly provide for them, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your child is actually suitable for this school. So do make sure you are looking at all options and keeping an open mind. Make sure that the schools you are looking at, they align with your values and your goals. So what is it that you want for your child when they leave? Grammar schools also have really great sport facilities. So that is another, if your child is really, really good at sports as well, grammar schools is always an option as well, because they'll be able to, like, especially like cricket and rugby and things. Most of people who end up playing for England tend to have come through the grammar school um, education system. Most of them, not hardly any of them, are state schools. So always keep that in mind as well. So make sure that when you are looking at, have a short list, create a spreadsheet, keeping your findings, so everything's there in one place in a notebook. But most importantly, as you're going through and researching these schools, dates, making sure you're paying attention to these key dates. Because like I said, if you miss the date, you will not be able to sit that test. So you as a parent, this is your job. Dates, making sure you are on top of it. Because every school is different, and some of them it's to do with your council. So you really need to make sure you are paying attention to these. Make sure you're going to open days. We are now at Easter. This is when all schools have open days. So go to them. We quite recommend, especially again, if your child is in year 4, particularly, go to these open days without your child, and then you can shortlist sort of the schools that you as a parent like. And then when they have other open days, then start taking your child to them to see which ones they might prefer. Again, this is just so, if you get any kickback from your child, you've had a look at, made sort of, they're going to want to go where their friends are going, right? So if you particularly want them to go to these schools, I would probably look at them before you take them to you. And again, keep updating your notes, updating your spreadsheets, to kind of shorten that list. Again, dates. When you are at these open days, make sure you're asking lots of questions, finding out absolutely everything you can about the schools. As we've said, the earlier the better. So if you are in year 4 currently, fantastic, get them started. Tech Learners, we're here to accommodate and help you guys and prepare them as best as possible. Even in year 5, we have got, what are we now? We've got 6 months. We have exactly 6 months now until the test. So yeah, get them in. It's, if they've done a little bit of preparation, we really need to start kickstarting. If the entrance exams, if the grammar schools is something that you want them or are able to do, they really do need to get started on this preparation. Classic books. If you are not reading, start. And I don't mean Harry Potter. I do love Harry Potter, but not Harry Potter. Um, it's not on the reading list. You want classic books. The Secret Garden often comes up. Charles Dickens, Christmas Carol. That's another one that comes up quite a lot. Animal Farm. They particularly like 1800 Victorian written books. So if you are not reading classic books, get them and get started. Not only is this going to help your child increase their vocabulary, general writing, punctuation, etc. It's going to really help them with their comprehension, that English paper and that verbal reasoning paper. So because the comprehension bit is always on a classic book. And nobody speaks like that. anymore. Even like Roald Dahl's Matilda and things, nobody speaks like that. And, you know, that's only like 40, 50 years old. So yeah, get them into classic books if you haven't already. Reading is absolutely key for half of this test, which is the verbal and English. They must be reading. Doesn't have to be a lot, could just be a couple of pages a night before bed, but they really, really need to be reading as often as possible. So yeah, 4 months before the exam. So this is May, sort of, this is when registration opens. This is obviously different. Some schools you have to do it directly with them, but the majority of them, it is with the local council. So you have to register your interest with your local government.gov registration thing. Okay. Um, if you miss this, you will again, I really cannot emphasize this enough. If you miss this, you will not be able to sit the 11 plus. There are so many students doing this now. They don't need to make accommodations for it. So mate, if your child is year 5, this summer is absolutely crucial, making sure that you're constantly checking when the registration is opening. And again, open days, etc. They will give you all the information about this if you attend open days. So please make sure you are attending them and you are looking at the school websites for this and making sure that you do get onto the council website and register. Okay, mock exams. So this is where this summer it allows you not just an understanding of your child, of sort of where they are sitting. It allows them to get used to their time management. Time is your biggest enemy in these tests. You have more questions than you have time. So the typical a minute a mark goes out the window. You are going to have like 60 questions and 45 minutes to do it. Okay, so time is your biggest enemy. So with the mock exams, it allows them to understand how the test is going to be sat, the feeling of it, especially, you know, when they're like 5 minutes left and you're like, oh no, I've still got 3 pages, etc. So it's going to allow your child to make so many mistakes, but the key thing is to learn from it. As a parent, don't get angry. I know from your point, you can see the light at the end. It's sort of August. There's only a few weeks left. This is where burnout is going to happen. You're going to have a lot of tears. You're going to have a lot of tantrums. It's going to come from you, and it's going to come from your child. All right. They're going to say they're not doing it. They're going to slam doors. You're going to get really frustrated with them. But this is where you really need to try and keep calm even after mock exams, it hasn't gone as well as it should have, or if they've succeeded, doesn't really matter. Make sure that you are congratulating them, going through the errors with them, working out what do we need to spend a little bit more time on with like certain questions, etc. So the monthly exams at TechLearn are obviously going to get them in preparation for this, but making sure that in the summer that you are also sort of doing extra mock exams as well at home on the side, it's really going to be key for this. So yeah, particularly that time management aspect. So the final month, you're now sort of towards the end of August, you need to find balance. You need to make sure your child is blowing off steam. You as a family, yeah, this point is critical. Like it's just going to be like so stressful. Be like moving house. Moving house is so stressful. But the key thing, stay off social media. There are a lot of 11 plus groups out there, and parents will start, oh, my child only got this, oh, blah, 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 blah. Stay off it, okay? I have to say, as parents, we're probably our worst enemy. We try to think we're helping other people by giving advice, and we're really not. And we are just stressing each other out, and it's not a competition. I mean, it is to get into the school, but like, it's not a competition about how great or not great it's all going. So making sure that final month you are being supportive, and you're helping your child in a calm, making it as calm as possible. And obviously exam day. So in September, some of you might do it once, some of you might have it a couple of times. But on exam day, don't talk about the exam. Make it as stress-free as possible. Make sure you have a nutritious breakfast. Remember, they're about to sit a 3-hour exam with little snacks in between. So making sure you are filling them up. Make sure you leave in plenty of time, and making sure that, because obviously if you're late, that's the end. Yeah, they are going to, it's all just going to be a rush and stress. And, you know, they if they've already started the paper, they're not going to pause it for you. Your child will have less time. So making sure that, you know, you've got to be there for 9:15 to register, making sure that you are within the vicinity of that school before 9 o'clock. Yeah, to make sure so the process is just nice and calm and easy, and keep the mood in the car carefree. I love karaoke carpool, especially on those stressful days. So put up those tunes and sing along. I love Disney, so I tend to put them on when I'm, or The Greatest Showman. I'll belt them out on days that I'm feeling stressed. Um, yeah, that is the whole admissions process. It's quite a lot. We will again go through this again during the monthly parents 11 plus 13 plus again,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's a lot to process. So I don't want anyone to feel like it's just like, I didn't get it all. This is monthly, so you will constantly get reminded of this information, so nobody is feeling overwhelmed, because I know it is an overwhelming process, and you need to make sure it is right. So your exams, it is split into four. For grammar schools, a lot of schools do not do non-verbal reasoning. They all do verbal reasoning, maths, and English. So depending on the council area of where you are, some will do all four, but I would say most of them now do three. They do the verbal reasoning, the maths, and the English. That's exactly the same for a lot of the private schools as well. If you do sit the ISEB, it is all four. It is four separate tests. So yeah, again, making sure that you are looking at the websites to make sure you know what the student, your child is doing. Because if they're not doing non-verbal, there's no point in doing it. A lot of kids get confused because it's lots of shapes and things, and it's all very confusing. So the key things on how we pass the 11 plus: time. Time management, it's absolutely allowing enough time. You're in year 4, fantastic. You are giving yourself time, as much time as possible. And obviously getting that time management on the day for your kids, taking those tests and learning time management. Again, the first time they're sitting tests, they have no idea on timing, watching clocks, writing papers. This is all very new to them. So making sure we are practicing, guiding them, communicating. Remember, we are a symbiotic triangle between the students, the parents, and here at TechLearn. We are all working together. And by working together, we are creating that team. We are opening that communication so your child can succeed. And do it in a very, very, hopefully, calm way. Because obviously, yeah, the more stress it gets, the more stress you get, and obviously everything just then explodes, doesn't it? So this is why just, you know, having the time, communicating, guiding together as a team, we can do it and we can succeed. Results day. So results day is around October. Don't worry if it's not on the day you're told. Apparently, this is something that happens all the time. The schools are like, oh, it'll be on Friday the 12th, and you don't get it until the 20 something. It's just because they've had so many tests that they're a bit overwhelmed. So yeah, it's at some point in October. Each school and county has different dates. So again, dates key, making sure it is, you know, you're keeping that open. Once you have the results, that's basically an invitation to be able to then go onto the government website and put the grammar school down as your first choice for your child for secondary school. If they haven't hit the mark, and the results are negative, congratulate your child. This is a long journey. It's an extremely long process. And, they're doing school and homework and extracurriculum as well as studying and training for this test. So any child that actually makes it to the end, like, well done, like, fantastic, because it has been a very, very, very long journey. Some kids, it's 2 or 3 years, and some kids start in year three. So, it's just making sure that no matter what happens, you are there for your child. Um, so obviously the alternatives, as we've said, a good state school like mine, again, postcodes will come into this. Faith schools, I think probably Afua, she probably went over this a bit more in detail on Saturday because she knows quite a lot about faith schools. So they tend to be smaller and achieve a lot of better results. I went to a Catholic school, so I do understand like the faith schools tend to have the better education than again the local state schools. Um, the grammar boarding. So this is key. So grammar schools, you've got to be within the vicinity. Grammar boarding. Now, this is where if you don't mind a boarding school option for your child, this could be something. So it's still government run. You're getting that private education and you're not paying for fees. The only thing you're paying for is the boarding section. Now, they're about £8,000 to £10,000 per year, but £8,000 to £10,000 a year is much better than you sending them to Brighton College Prep and spending 60. So it is an option for those who can obviously maybe look at it, look at grammar boarding. There is about 30, 32, I think, grammar boarding schools within the UK. So it is an option for you. We have one here in it's Ripon Grammar. It does day and boarding school. So yeah, it is an option that I will look at for myself. I am out of the postcode to put my son in the day school, but Ripon is 45 minutes by car, so it means he could board and I can pick him up and do the weekend. So that is an option for myself, and it is something I will also be looking at. So yeah, it is an option. Nobody knew that grammar schools did boarding school, but yes, it is an option for them. Key stage 2 SATs. So obviously, year six, we do sit SATs. Particularly if your children go to state primary schools, prep schools do not do SATs. I don't know why, but they don't. But we all have to sit Key Stage 2. It is a government test to see that the national level of the country's 11-year-olds finishing primary school in their maths, English, and science. Now, everyone says, what's the point? There's absolutely no point to them, but there is. This is going to determine what level, like what class your child sits in secondary school. And it's very difficult to move up and down levels within the secondary school system. So if you are sat in the top the top maths class, you're in step one, that means you're going to sit the higher paper for GCSEs. If your child does not do very well for the year six SATs, they might be in set three, or like say there's 4 sets, they might be in set 3 or 4. They're going to sit the lower paper, which means when I was at school, it was a C. The highest they could get with a C, I think it's now a level 5 or 6. So if they sit the lower maths paper, they cannot get a 7, 8, or 9. So this is where your Key Stage 2 SATs actually, it really does actually determine your education moving forward. And most people don't actually realise this. So yeah, So once the entrance exam preparation is done, then it is full steam ahead for your year six stats. Luckily, a lot of the curriculum that your child will sit for the 11 plus is year six work. So it is also great preparation for the SATs as well, which is a bit handy. And also, if they've sat an exam, they already know what exam's going to feel like, what's it's going to happen. So again, you're sort of like hitting both sides of the knife. Um,
Mm,
but yeah, it's absolutely really relevant. You don't realize it when that
mm,
it's really does determine what's going to happen further on down the line. Because like I said, once you're in those sets, in those classes, in school, very difficult to then move up and down between the sets. And those sets do determine what GCSE paper you sit, and therefore whether you can get a top grade, level 9, or you're going to sit the lower paper, which means you can only get a level 5 or 6. Um, so yeah, that is
mm.
everything in a nutshell. I know it's a lot of information to throw out there, but we do the other parental uh, Q&A on another date. So again, we will refresh all of this information so that hopefully everybody does understand what they're doing and where to go. But otherwise, that is everything. So
Mm. Yeah.
I will stop share
Okay.
for any questions.
Okay. So just to while we're trying to get the question, so just to add to what Lauren had said. So this whole process of the 11 plus and the SAT, KS2 SAT, is not something that can be covered in a single webinar. So what we have at Technal is that we have what we call career advisory classes, right? And that is where Lauren, Afua, and some other career advisors, they come on board, right? So because excelling, going to the right school, it's a four-part process. So we have pupils, the pupils, the parents, the tutors, and the career advisor. This career advisory class is old monthly. At times is like once in 2 months, and that is where we go into the nitty-gritty of this process. As you can see, she explained everything. There's the open day, there is the exam, there is, there's just a lot of process involved. There's the registration, right? So it's very important that your child gets into the program where you could actually have opportunity to ask questions, and you are guided through the process. She said a lot of things around your local authority area. So there's just a whole lot, right? And it's very important. Then also talking about the SAT, like she said, child's SAT score will determine where he's placed even in a secondary school. And that will go a long way in affecting the GCSE. And like I said earlier, the GCSE also affects the university admission, even affects the job you get. So the best time to prepare for the future, not yesterday, it's now, right? So these things, it has a cascading and a compounding effect, right? So for us in TechLearn, we don't just teach you or teach your child, maths, English, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. We also coach and guide through the admission process and every other process that is necessary. So I need to say that you can't get everything in a day. And so you need to be a part of the process. And our career advisory sessions, they are ongoing, they don't end. It's an ongoing process, so it just continues, right? And another thing I want to add is for these classes, right? So if your child is in year 4, it's a very good time to start preparation. If your child is in year 5, it's also a very good time, right? But if your child is in year 5, they will be on the accelerated path, like I said earlier, which means They're having their normal 4 classes a week, but depending on their progress, we will recommend extra classes for them at no cost to you. So we have a program. So we are watching the child. We are doing the monthly mock test. We are looking at the results. We are looking at the performance in the class. And we are looking at September. So we just have to, if you see, oh, this class, they need more classes to achieve the objective, then we have to do that. So that is also something I want to stress, that if your child is in year 4, it's a good time to start. If your child is in year 5, it's also a very good time to start. We just put them in the accelerated plan. So year 5 are in a different class, year 4 and they're in a different class. And if your child is in year 6, they're in a separate class, because for year 6, they can't write 11 plus anymore. They just have to write the KS2 SAT exams. And she also mentioned some alternatives, right, to even the grammar schools, which we explore during the career sessions. And to also reemphasize the fact that each of these programs is 10 months. So whether your child is doing the SAT or the 11 plus or the GCSE, it's a 10 months program. So when they are done with their, for those who are in year 5, when they are done with the exam in September, we start prepping them for year 6. For those who are doing GCSE, well, for those who are doing a SAT, when they are done with their SAT exam in May, we start prepping them for year 7. So learning just continues. So those are things I want to say. I think we have a question here. Somebody is asking about the classic books. Don't worry about that. There are a lot of classic books. It will be covered during the course of the program, in the career coaching classes, in the tutoring classes. So by default, classes are 4 times a week: Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. If your child is writing 11 plus, it's 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. UK time. If your child is writing the SAT or the GCSE, 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. UK time. So for registration, you can WhatsApp any of these numbers, or you can post your questions on the group. I think we have some questions here. So some people have questions. What resources are provided for 11 plus class? There are resources, mock test, books, materials, live classes, career coaching, progress reports. So whatever your child needs to succeed, all the resources are provided, right? So that's just it. Anything they need, there are lots of them that we assist with, right? So is there any other question? So the replay will be shared. And if this is your first session, we also shared the replay of the Saturday session where Alpha was around. So I would advise that you watch both Saturday session and you also watch this session. It gives a balanced view. So classes starts next week, Monday, like I said, March 17, next week, Monday. Registration closes this Saturday. What subjects do you cover in the GCSE? So we cover maths, English, and sciences for now, right? Because that is based on the demand that we have. So maths, English, physics, chemistry, and biology. And we do that in depth. So those are the subjects that we'll cover. Yes, the recording will be made available on the group. We'll share that of Saturday, and we also share that of today with you, right? So you have the recording. The group will be open after this session, and you can ask all your questions, right? You can ask all your questions. So does anybody still have any question? It's not a problem. If your child is in year 4, just WhatsApp. Just WhatsApp for registration details. You can WhatsApp any of these lines, right, for how to register your child, and we'll take it off from there. Don't forget, it's a 10 months program and highly discounted. If you are doing 11 plus, that's £325. You are doing GCSE, it's £285. You are doing SAT, it's also £285. So that's how we do it. So I think we've gotten all the questions. So for anything that you are not clear about, you can WhatsApp any of these numbers. So Lauren, thank you for coming around tonight. And
no problem. Thanks for having me.
been very informative, and I know that the parents will get more of you at the career coaching session. So Deborah is asking, is it a group class? It's a group class, but we have maximum of 5 students and minimum of 3 students in the class. So it's not all those classes that you have 20, no, just 5. So that each child will have enough attention, right? So maximum of 5. There are classes that have 3 pupils, some have 4, but we don't go beyond 5 per class, right? The materials, don't worry. Once you get in all the materials you need, don't worry about materials. They are enough, right? The classes are live classes. I should say that. The classes are live classes. They are not recorded classes. No, these are live. So the tutor teaches all the children in a live class via Zoom, right? So I think, so if you have a question and because of time, you are not able to ask your question, you can always drop your question on the group and we answer your question in detail, right? Oh, somebody, yes, I've answered that. If your child is in year 10, they can still write the GCSE, right? So they can join the GCSE class and we'll just give them special attention. How many days per week for year 4 pupils? Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. 4 days per week, right? Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. 4 days per week, right? So that's how it works, right? 4 days per week, right? So if there's any question, no more question. So thank you, people. 4 days per week, an hour per class. What subjects, please? Maths, English, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning. Maths, English, verbal reasoning, non-verbal reasoning for the 4 classes, right? Even though they don't start maths and English immediately, they don't start verbal reasoning immediately. So they start with maths and English, then after a while, they start to do verbal reasoning and non-verbal reasoning, because it's always good to have a strong foundation in maths and English before they move to the verbal and non-verbal reasoning. So that's how it works, right? And yeah, so I think I'll just take the last question. Just have a minute to go, right? So, and if I'm not able to answer your question, just one more question and we are done. If nobody has a question, then you can always ask the question on the group, right? So I think we are done, right? We are done for today. So let me see, is there any other question? No more. Okay. So thank you very much, everybody. See you all in the class. Class starts next week, Monday. Registration closes this Saturday. So, Lauren, thanks once again. It's been a wonderful time here and lots of value. Bye for now. My regards to the family. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, bye. Yeah.
See you later. Bye.